Welcome back, everybody, to another round of Nostalgia TV. We are the graveyard shift of forgotten television shows, and maybe we're talking about one that's not so forgotten, but it is a show worth watching. It is Punisher, that aired on Netflix in 2017, starring Jon Bernthal.
Job. I hate this goddamn job, and I don't need it.
You two had better be calmed down, or we're breaking out the ball gags.
You're listening to the fucking Suns and Shadows podcast on this network, so fucking subscribe or die. Fist bump.
Yep, welcome back, everybody. That's right, Punisher Season 1 this time. Kevin, did you ever check this one out when it first aired many years ago, or was this your first time checking it out?
No, I did. I forgot, but I did.
Okay.
I didn't remember everything correctly. Like there was one thing I thought I remembered right, but didn't happen at all. But yeah, I remember watching this one.
Yeah, I definitely watched this one years ago. I actually thought about getting some like questionable Blu-ray releases that never were official, and I might still do that after we are finished recording here, because I would like to have this in my collection. And this was a great show when it first came out, and it was spun off from his appearance in Daredevil Season 2, which was on Netflix, the good Daredevil show. We don't know what's coming on Disney Plus, so opinions will be left wanting when it comes to that, and we'll have to wait and see. But super awesome to see this so many years ago when it was finally a really great Punisher show, casting, everything. It's a fun watch, and watching it again, I forgot how good it really was. It got me choked up a couple times because they did a good job getting you invested in the characters and telling an overall story. The season feels a little long, but overall it's well paced, and it's constructed almost like it's 4 movies rather than a full TV show. And I think that's what works to its strengths. But Kevin, what did you think watching it this time around? Did you like it more this time, or was it more of the same?
So I don't know. I can't say I watched it critically or more critically than I did the first time. Perhaps I did. I didn't have a whole lot of gripes about it. I don't feel like I was watching The Punisher the entire time, like I did, say, watching any one of the Punisher movies. Well,
Right.
The last 2 Punisher movies. This is infinitely better than the first Punisher movie by a country mile.
I was going to say a country mile.
This is far better constructed than the last Punisher movie.
By
But
3 country miles.
yeah, but golly, this is a long, tumultuous, tedious show, but it's very smart. It's very good. It gets you. It's as sticky as a spider web is, and it doesn't fucking let go until the end.
I can't help it from the Daredevil or the Deadpool trailer where he's just pew, pew, pew.
Yeah, be here Saturday night, folks. We'll be doing that live all night from 9 p.m. on.
Yeah, right, we will. But to your point, the show does feel a little long, but the writing staff on this was top notch. Like, they had everything down to a T, paced and planned out. So everything pays off.
Yeah.
Nothing is left open at the end, except for maybe this person's not dead, and what's really going to happen going forward with, say, like Frank and who's he, what's it's anybody else. So there's some open-endedness to it, but nothing of like, this felt like a very good self-contained story for a season at least.
Yeah.
And as just kind of a quick note about like the drawback to how you were talking about with the pacing and how the show felt long, if anything, they maybe could have dropped a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, a subplot here, a subplot there. We probably could have gotten a much tighter season in maybe 10 to 12 episodes. But overall, it's very well done. It doesn't really feel like they needed to, but it might have made it a little bit more tighter as far as like pacing goes.
You keep saying tighter, and we're talking about cutting scenes, and all I could think of is Madani. and all of her sex scenes.
Do not cut those. Dude, don't even say that. But Donnie was a doll. She was a cutie pie. So
Yes.
she did. All the actors were awesome in this show. Like, you start with Jon Bernthal to all the way to everybody else on this cast. Fan-freaking-tastic.
Yes. Everybody was top notch. Nobody gave a piss poor performance. No one could have been played better by or anything like that. This was a stellar cast, and they did a great job. And when I say
on his micro, for fuck's sake, like, the dude's going to be in the new Fantastic Four movie.
Is he playing? No, he's not playing Ben. He's going to be the new Galactus. Is that who he's playing?
I believe so.
Interesting.
I'm going to double check. Oh.
Haven't they learned to stop double casting actors in the MCU? Like, you can't explain it with Skrulls no more.
He's going to be playing Ben Grimm, the Thing.
Oh, well, okay then.
So we get Micro from the Netflix TV show playing Ben Grimm.
Burly Ben Grimm.
Yep.
That's okay.
But I love Ebon. He's fantastic. So
yes, he played a great microchip in this. And they didn't really call him microchip, but
more micro. Yeah.
But he was great. I loved his character that they wrote for him. I loved the way that he portrayed him. I loved his backstory with the family. Again,
absolutely, yes.
Great subplot that's not necessarily in the comics, but it worked for this. It all fit the spirit and the character of the Punisher. All of those characters, their subplots and their stories fit within the spirit of the characters within the comics, and it felt great to watch. Now, when I say it was tedious and tumultuous, it's because it was some really heavy shit to watch, some really heavy things to process.
Yeah.
Torture, executions, like murderous executions, like, you know, not
a bunch of kidnappings.
Yeah.
Like, the shit is wild, like, we really get into the weeds of some heavy themes in this show. And it's like, if you hadn't learned from like Daredevil, Luke Cage, and Jessica Jones by this point, you were in for a doozy, because if you didn't check any of those shows out and you started with this one, you're probably sitting there after like 3 minutes going, what the fuck did I just get myself into? Because it's serious and it's hardcore, and they get into like PTSD issues. They get into like what you're talking about with torture and killing and government cover-ups and political intrigue and the seeking for vengeance because Castle's family's dead. Like, it sounds like there's a lot going on, but it all actually ties together very neatly and very well. But they actually pace it out to where you figure certain things out as you go along in this show. And it's very nice. And now, if you're a fan of the comic books, you're a fan of like any previous iteration, you know Billy the Beaut is eventually going to be the character known as Jigsaw. Yeah. And he's the best Jigsaw I've ever seen. And still didn't quite nail a Jigsaw because he doesn't become Jigsaw quite yet.
Yeah, no, not at all. And from what I understand, he doesn't either in the second one either. Excuse me. But and that's okay. Still a great fucking character for this story. Like, I'm able to sit and watch The Dark Knight and be like, that's a good Joker. It's not the Joker, but it's a damn good performance that he put on. So you can't fucking turn your nose at it. This was, again, a good performance put on as Billy or Jigsaw.
Ben Barnes.
Yeah, was it Jigsaw? No, not necessarily, but it was scary and cool and just demonic almost. Depraved.
Are you saying they made it make sense, Kevin?
Yeah. I mean, Jigsaw in the comics is a hitman that got fucked up by Frank and got fucked up by Frank, and then is at this point his nemesis and wants to take over all the families, and spawned out to fighting Daredevil and Spider-Man and all the other characters that are on the streets in New York.
Complete psycho.
Yeah. And again, if you've played the Spider-Man video game, the downloadable content, the City That Never Sleeps, Hammerhead, the way he acts is a lot like the way you'd expect to see Jigsaw.
Yep.
Yeah.
Completely agree.
So, well, we don't see that Jigsaw, but this guy's still pretty fucking cool. Mixing him with Agent Orange, the God, what was it? Bill Rollins. I think that was
William Rollins, or they kept calling him Bill, but
yeah, scary ass combination of brain and muscle.
Yeah, that was pretty interesting. I remember like that a little bit. Like when the show started, I'm like, I know how this ends on my rewatch, and just following it through again, I was like, I guess I forgot a lot more than I thought I did, because certain things, like I know you mentioned something earlier about like you didn't quite remember how the show went. Well, it was very much the same way with me, because I guess my mind kept jumping to season 2, because I'm like, this is a bit of a slog. I mean, I didn't feel season 1 was a slog. Season 2 is a bit of a reset slog a little bit. I still like it, but just watching this season through again, I'm like, I'm picking up little bits and pieces, and I'm like, I don't remember this guy being this good as a creepy douchebag boss, Rollins. I'm like, this is pretty fun. And then how he ends up getting his untimely demise at the end by the hands of Frank. It's like Billy's like, you know what? I don't like this guy. I'm not going to take him out, but I'm going to give Frank the opportunity to do it. It's going to be up to him though.
Yeah. Yeah. I did not remember Billy getting his comeuppance being as gross as it was at the end. That was
yeah, right. I'm like, oh, I know he gets his face smashed in the mirror, but like I forgot it was the smash and then the push down the mirror. I'm like, oh damn, I forgot how brutal that fucking was. And the Foley sounds to go with it to make it really sound like it's creating his face on a freaking mirror. It's totally awesome.
And here I think to myself, should I make enchiladas tonight? Nah.
Yeah.
Nah. Start grating that cheese. Golly, that was something special. And he had that Colossus moment, the 2 or 3 moments moment, but he justified it by making him live deformed and suffering and feeling alone and everything else. And that was okay too, I guess. But again, always kill everybody. That way you don't have to deal with this problem in season 2. That way there is no season 2. He could have just retired.
Yeah, well, and that's ultimately what they end up doing with season 2. And real quick, everybody, we are covering season 2 separately. That'll be in 2 weeks. So stay tuned for that. But ultimately season 2 is basically a retelling of this first season a little bit. It's not a real retelling. It's like they rebooted Frank back to like, basically, I'm no longer the Punisher. I'm just Pete Castiglione, and I'm just a normal guy just trying to get through life. And we got to go through the journey again of him becoming the Punisher again. And it's just, it takes a long time to get there. And it feels like unnecessary to do that. It feels like another self-contained story. And I know that while the comics are a little bit like that with a bunch of self-contained stories, he doesn't keep resetting back to some normal guy just trying to get through life. He's always the fucking Punisher. He's always looking for the next crime gang to take out or some psycho. It's just, I felt with season 2 that's part of the problem with that, is we didn't have to start like that. But based on how the season ended, it's like, hey, I resolved my past. I need to just find my way now. But then as you find out in season 2, somebody else from his past comes back. Mr. Clancy Brown, Kevin.
Oh, really? Schoonover. Schoonover. That's right.
He still lives. So that's a big selling point on season 2 when they got Clancy Brown back for that.
That's cool. Okay, fine. I'll watch it. I was going to say, man,
that's part of the business plan here.
That's going to be tedious, man. This was tedious enough. Like,
You say tedious. I feel like it's not really that tedious, but season 2 is. That's a season that easily should have been shortened down to like 10 episodes.
what was tedious for me was the constant pieces of padding, for lack of term. Like
That's what I was going to ask you. Like, so what did make you feel like that?
His dreams a lot with Maria. Like almost any scene with Maria in it that wasn't that flashback at the park was repetitive.
Really?
Or him getting knocked out and seeing his wife. That was like his kind of fuck you to Agent Orange or Rollins. You know, if he gets knocked out, he's in his happy place. But otherwise, it's like, okay, we get it. He's having nightmares all the time. We don't need to keep seeing the nightmares in every episode, 3 times an episode. So that got a little after a while because it kept happening. And like they might have been able to shave an entire episode off just by cutting most of those out.
Maybe 25, 30 minutes. But to your point, they have to show how he's haunted by that. He just can't just be like sitting there moping around all the time. You want to get inside of his head. But I understand what you're saying. Like it got to be too much. They could have easily kept it to maybe just a moment here, a moment there. Like make her like her and the family he had be the specter over his soul. Something that we actually did see with Thomas Jane's Punisher, where you felt like he was being haunted all the time. You didn't necessarily get a ton of flashbacks to that. You got just enough. But with this, they want to keep reminding you what was going on in his head and what was driving him forward to vengeance.
Yeah. Yeah. And that was one of the very few things that did actually kind of get old to me, where I'm kind of like, okay, come on then, let's go. What else?
To your credit, I'm going to say early episodes that could have been held back because with the payoff at the very end when he's going against Rollins, that actually made sense for that particular episode.
Yeah.
Overall, it's just all the stuff at the beginning, like the first 3 to 4 episodes feel like they take a little while getting going as far as like how he's being haunted by Maria and what's going on with him, especially with the construction site little arc going on. And then we finally get to a little more with like Micro.
Speaking of which, we never see what happens to that dude Donnie after the fact, do we?
No, and I don't believe he comes back in the second season. That was just I would have thought they might have included him a little bit more, like even just a throwaway line later. Like, I don't know. It could have been something, but they never did.
Yeah, he was a good actor. Missed opportunity.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good. Or you could have brought him back for season 2 real quick for something.
Yeah. Because that was a neat little story that they had set up there where, Frank kind of has to break his cover, for lack of a better term, to do the right thing reluctantly, because that's just
incognito,
who he is.
Kevin. He's trying to hide.
Well,
he grew this fucking beard out. I'm like, it doesn't really look that good on Frank.
Why everyone kept calling him hipster.
Oh my god, that was a fucking great line where he's like, I got sick of people calling me hipster. I'm not a hipster.
The lady, we don't get very many hipsters in here, mister. Well, you still don't.
The unintentional humor in this show was on point, like almost 9 times out of 10. There was only like a one time or another where it was just like, that didn't really quite land, but lines like that always kind of worked for me. Or when they were busting balls like between him and Micro, when they finally found kind of a mutual respect with each other and understanding, I liked their banter at times, and it always worked. And especially my favorite scene where they're both getting drunk after Frank got kissed by Sarah, David's wife, and they're getting drunk and they're just yapping about like how Frank first met Maria, or and then how David first met Sarah, and then he's like, but I'm also hung like a moose or a horse. He's like, you let me throw you. And it's like, oh my God.
This is why you can't take my wife from me.
And then he's like, and this sweet ass, and they start just jiggling his butt, and Frank's just like, Jesus Christ, dude. They laugh. So like you get those moments of humor, and with their chemistry, it makes you actually care about both characters, and it makes you reminded of Frank as a human being and what he was like a little bit before all this, and like that's still in there. So I like those moments that gave Frank a bit of humanity in between all of his viciousness that he had to delve out to the bad guys.
Oh, Frank's humanity, his real humanity, the God, what's the word I'm looking for? Symbol of his humanity, for lack of a better term, wasn't in this show nearly as much as she needed to have been. And that was Karen Page.
Like, Deborah Ann Wolf. Yes.
Yeah, like my love for Deb aside, because she's a Misty, like Karen is just a great character. She always was in the comics. She is in this show. I loved her arc in season 2. I loved their arc together in season 2.
It made sense.
Yeah. And she didn't come off as being crazy or hysterical after the events of season 2. And she still doesn't. And she's not in love with Frank. Like there's part of Frank and Karen that do love each other, I think.
Oh yeah. There's deep caring, because he actually says it multiple times. Like, I can't lose her.
Yeah.
And it's not in the because I love her, like as a lover sort of thing. It's she's like my one good thing in this current life.
Yeah, she understands him.
Like between her and Kurt, that's his only tie to a base of reality that he can tolerate. And without her in it, it would be just like losing Karen. It'd be just like losing his wife all over again. But he looks at her more like a sister, somebody who actually got to see the true Frank and actually stood up for him, helped him, and got him through the events of Daredevil season 2, which brought him to this point now. And the fact that she came back was very smart by the writers to include that into this story, because without that, you only got these little nuanced moments where they reference what happened in Daredevil. With her actually in this and actually a pivotal part of the story, it really brings everything together and gels with this show. And it gives Frank that emotional base and core that he so desperately needs at that particular moment that Micro can't afford him. Micro's just a guy he only just met. They haven't had that deep of a relationship or a traumatic event to experience together, which we eventually do get with those guys.
Yeah, Karen is able to empathize with his loss in a way that Micro can't.
Right.
Which is funny because Karen hasn't necessarily suffered that loss, but she was able to empathize with it. And she's in love in a way with the tragedy that is the Castle family, just as much as that she's in love with Frank Castle.
Right.
So it's very hard for her. It's a bitter spot for her. And God, I love the way she portrays that character. And then the balls that she has when it comes to kicking ass, like her final episodes where the terrorist attack finally occurs when she's interviewing the senator. Yeah. That was pretty damn awesome.
Yeah. That episode was really good. What I really like about that episode is we get the New York cop beat the detective back from the Daredevil show, and they're just talking about like, you do know what happened in Daredevil season 2 is what it's basically. She's screaming at him like, you know, Frank, you think he's really gonna kill somebody for a political opinion? Like, are you out of your fucking mind? He's about killing the bad guys. He's not about killing good guys.
even Madani's like, you're not very good at reading the narrative here, are you, detective?
Yeah,
Like,
you're not quite with it. And I'm like, I literally wrote down in my notes, NYPD gets their ass handed to them not only by the Punisher, but by the cops and the feds.
and the feds. Yeah, NYPD comes off as really inept in this.
Yeah.
So, but again, it was a missed opportunity to have Matt Murdock come in as his lawyer.
Well, he ultimately everything got resolved in a very smart and simple way. I do feel like one little appearance by Charlie Cox's Matt Murdock would have been helpful, even in just a kind of a passing scene where Karen calls him or goes to the office and Matt's like, if we need to bring him in, just give me a call. And just we never get to that point because suddenly she's got an interview with the senator.
Yeah.
Or she could just easily have said, I'm not talking with Matt right now, or I would totally be able to get you some help. He's kind of doing his own thing. We're not really working together. We're not talking. But if you need something, I can reach out to him. Like there could have been a reference outside of just, you kidnapped me and I empathized with you and now I'm with you. Yeah. So
Stockholm.
Another one for Stockholm.
I don't know. I really liked her and I wish she would have been in it more, but I understand where she couldn't have been in the whole thing, I guess.
It would have been fun. I really like their dynamic. I really like their chemistry, but I also understand you can't build a whole series around that. They just wanted to use it for just a little bit in the show. Whereas I think they could have used it also again in season 2. So that's something that's kind of missing from season 2 is a little bit of influence from her.
There's no Deb in season 2?
I see. This is where my memory gets a little fuzzy. I can double check that real quick.
Sadness.
Let's see. Punisher.
The Punisher. It's French. I don't know. I don't know if Claire was supposed to be in this season as well, because I want to say Claire was supposed to be in all of the Defenders shows as well. Rosario Dawson and God, what was his name? The drug runners, not drug runner, arms merchant, Turk. Turk was supposed to be in all of them as well, but it was only Turk that wound up in being all 4 of them.
Okay.
Yeah. For whatever reason, Rosario Dawson wasn't able to be in this one.
Right. Yeah.
Karen's better.
Yeah. Deborah was not in season 2.
That is too bad.
Yep.
I mean, I get it, but it's a missed opportunity.
Wait. Was confirmed? I think I just read that wrong. Looks like she probably wasn't. Deborah Ann Woll was confirmed to be reprising her role as Karen Page in December 2018. So she was in season 2.
Huzzah!
Had to not be very much because I really don't remember her from that season. I don't know. I guess rewatching it, I'll freaking out my memory on that one. This is what I'm saying about season 2, everybody. It's kind of like it's not as memorable. It's still good, but like, I don't really remember that as well as I remember this season. This season was just very memorable and very on point.
Yeah, there's not much in this season that's forgettable at all. Like things that you would think is forgettable, like the group circle for the vets, turns out to be very pivotal in several episodes.
Oh yeah, especially with like Lewis and
the amount of callbacks too.
Oh yeah.
Again, specifically with Lewis and whatnot, but and golly, for something that could have been filler, what a subplot that was.
Well, yeah, you ended up turning out to be a complete lunatic too.
Mm-hmm. And the poor kid, you really wanted to tell him, who's they? Who is they? There is no they. They is created by you to have a fucking opponent. That's who
even
they
Karen
are.
said that a couple times too. Like when talking about like Lewis and like, who is they? I don't understand what you're talking about. And then his little letter to her was really funny, and I'm just like, oh my god.
If you don't print this letter, I'll know you're one of them. It's like,
who's
dude,
them?
what grade are you in?
Yeah.
Really no.
I mean, they did that on purpose, so I don't really hate that, but it was just kind of funny.
No, but golly, you know, the whole, that of all things, pulling Frank out of hiding was okay, whatever. He didn't kill nobody on the way to there, so that wasn't all that fantastic. The episode itself was mainly a flashback, so there was no suspense to it. You know, everything winds up being okay. You already know at the beginning of the episode the senator's okay, that Karen's okay, that Billy's okay. Like, the only person that you worry about, quote unquote, is Lewis
and Frank.
Oh yeah, I suppose so. But there was still,
you just see like the destroyed freaking room, and then just talking about what happened. So it's like, you know, Frank just didn't walk away scot-free or without a scratch on him.
Yeah,
it's like, so how bad did he get his ass kicked? But he kept going anyway.
But there wasn't a whole lot of blood, so you know, it wasn't that, I wasn't that concerned for Frank necessarily.
Yeah.
You know, if there was a lot more blood, I'm sure Frank would have been busier.
Yeah. Well, I like the construction of that episode. I like how it was going back and forth a little bit with like different camera angles and going back and having the story being told one way as opposed to another way. There wasn't too much with like conflict of stories, except for between like the senator, who seemed to feel like Frank was with the shooter, and he really wasn't. And Karen was basically just being like, what the hell with this freaking politician? Like, this is what really happened. And I really enjoyed how that episode was set up. It gave you something different. We'd had a pretty straightforward episodes leading to that point, and then we got to tell an interesting story in a very different sort of way, and I think that really worked. It felt more like a comic book episode rather than an actual episode of the show. So yeah, where they would just kind of they messed with the story a little bit just to tell it in a different way, so it would keep you engaged. And I feel like that was the good moment of this show, where it's like, okay, you're giving us a little bit of a reset, but we're not letting up on the gas pedal. And then after this, we're going to get back to the main core story for Frank. And that really worked, as far as like, all right, let's resolve this storyline. Let's wrap a couple things up, and then let's go straight to the end.
Yeah. And it didn't necessarily feel like filler. It didn't. It was such a good subplot that it could have been, like you said, 4 separate movies. It could have been its own thing. This could have been its own Punisher movie, just this part. And would have been just as satisfying to a general audience, I think.
Right. This is where I think they should handle, like, say, a Punisher movie. Please, Disney, don't do a Punisher movie. You're going to fucking nerf it and kill it anyway. But if we were to get another movie with this, like, say, cast and the original creative team, an episode like that would make a great story. Like, let's just focus on the good stories first before you start getting into, hey, let's do Jigsaw, like Warzone turned out.
Yeah, but at least we got to see Jigsaw. I can't bitch about that. I cannot bitch about that. Was it stupid? Yes, but I still can't bitch about getting to see Jigsaw. He looked cool. Just didn't sound
cool. Or Warzone?
In Warzone.
Oh, fuck.
Fuck off. The makeup looked cool.
Defense noted.
Oh, everything else
just got noted.
Noted. 2 demerits.
No, I mean, I liked this portrayal a little bit better of Billy the Butte. And I liked how sick and twisted they actually ended up making him the second you found out what he was doing with like his mom. It's like, oh, he was keeping her jacked up on meth and undergoing meth treatment at the same time, keeping her riddled in bed.
Oh, is that what he was doing?
Yeah. He's keeping her drugged so she would be suffering for the rest of her life for what she did to him because she was a meth addict that dropped him off, or he got taken away to group homes.
Oh.
And then he
Far
tracked
out.
her down and he's like, hi, Mom. I'm going to make you suffer now for what you did to me. You abandoned me.
Okay.
That's why he had abandonment issues, Kevin.
He was making her catatonic. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or whatever she was. I didn't catch that. I wasn't sure what was in that syringe.
Yep. He was jacking her up with shit.
Some of that heron.
Heron.
That Afghani hash from Johnny Chimpo.
Oh,
that's what this needed, was a Johnny Chimpo fucking reference.
That would have been pretty funny. But yeah, the way he was treating his mom, how he had never settled down with a woman until he met like Madani, and then he even screwed that up when he killed like Stein. And from that point on, it's like, you know, she's not going to be the same girl after that, dude. You just killed like her partner that she was starting to really get attached to as far as like a person she could rely on.
Yeah, but he would have sexed it away eventually after the bath.
Yeah.
Like,
that was creepy too.
The bath?
Yeah, he straight up killed her partner and he's just there like, I'll give you a bath.
He's
as the audience we're watching this being like, oh dear God, this guy is fucking crazy. He's playing it like he's Hannibal, like, I'm too smart for these people.
A little bit, yes. A little bit,
man.
And he did it really well. Like that was the creepiest part about it, was the perfection of the performance.
Yes, Ben, excellent job, dude.
Yeah. And
he actually felt like he could fight Frank Castle. He actually had an imposing figure to him, and how they developed that was he was his partner in Afghanistan, and for years they were basically like running buddies in the Marine Corps. And you could totally trust that these two elite soldiers would be a knockdown, drag-out fight, and it did not let down with that ultimate fight at the end. They actually paid off that climax very well. It didn't have to be a 25-minute fight. It was actually very smart. You go from long distance to closer distance with the guns to straight up fist fighting. It's like it had to go that way, and it turned out flawlessly. And you know, I really like Billy and Frank as when they were like cool with each other, and it actually broke your heart when you eventually found out that Billy like basically screwed him.
Yeah, and killed his family. Knew that the family was going to get killed.
Yeah, he didn't kill them. He actually said, I wasn't there and I refused to be a part of it, but I did know about it. And that was enough for Frank to be like, I'm so gonna fucking kill you.
Yeah, because his kids loved him as Uncle Billy, and he knew that they were going to get killed.
Right. So. And he was okay with it to the point of, no, I ain't going to do it, but I ain't going to stop him. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, I'm going to stay home and count this money from the heroin sales.
Yep. 1, 2, 3 million. Okay, here we go. I'm going to go start a company called Anvil.
Drop it on your head.
It should have been Acme Anvil. That would have been funny.
They don't own Warner Brothers yet.
Not just yet.
But David Zaslav is taking customers, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. He's about to renew a wrestling deal. So,
with whom?
AEW.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Sorry, that's our only wrestling reference on this show. Although we did get a spine buster in the final fight scene.
Oh, God. Yeah. Yeah.
Threw Billy on the ground full force. I'm like, oh, spine buster.
Well, that was one of the great things about Frank is if he would get if he would get fucked up, if he would get cut, stabbed, shot, whatever, his response was brute force.
Yeah.
Like smash it through the wall. and it never ever failed.
Frank had a hard time dying. like true Punisher fashion. You can't kill the man.
No, he's too stubborn to die.
Too rage-filled.
Yeah, and god damn, there are no odds against him that are like good enough to win.
Yeah, he don't give a shit. If it's a bad guy, laser focused.
Taking that hill by himself in Kandahar was pretty goddamn dope.
Oh my god, that was wild.
And again,
Shows
that's
you how
where
much
you
of a
kinda like,
beast he was.
yeah, do I sit here feel like I'm watching The Punisher as I read the comic books? No, I do not. But I'm sitting here watching something so intense and so fucking entertaining that it does pertain to one of my favorite comic book characters in the past that I'm not going to complain. This is fucking wow. Like, I just saw Frank do all this shit in his veteran days. Wow.
Yeah.
And one of the things that you have to remember, again, this is not one of the movies. This is a TV show. So there are things that are going to take a long time to go over. And unfortunately, there are things that they beat like a dead horse, like the dreams about Maria. Again, I'm sorry, the sex scenes with Madani. We know she's a fucking freak. We don't have to see all the different. Yeah. But not going to show her boobies. That's okay, too.
No.
Anyway,
not unless they're all bandaged up.
That was the most convenient fucking bandaging I've ever seen since Star Wars, dude. Like, really?
No kidding. I forgot about that when I saw that. I'm like, interesting. It almost looked like a swimsuit top made out of gauze.
Yeah, like, are we going to a kinky mummy party later or what? I don't know.
And I'm sure the sex was hurting with that too. Like, you got bruises from head to toe, basically. And you're going to town with Billy the Beaut. I'm sure he's not exactly holding back on going to Pound Town.
They have anger issues.
It's funny, I actually
Spawn
was okay with them as a little bit of a couple for a while until he betrayed her too.
I was annoyed. I was so annoyed because you know he's the bad guy. And you know she's just giving him fucking information that you're not supposed to give your partner, your spouse in general, let alone your boyfriend. Like, yeah.
Well, they actually made that a story point too. It's like, you let him get close. This is a conflict of interest if something happens now. Well, I wanted to tell him that we were coming for him and we would grab him first chance we got. And boy, our boss Rafi's just like, oh, Jesus Christ, you're stupid.
I would have given anything to hear Rafi say, Dina, could it be that once again you were mad at something else, but you were choosing to take it out on me?
Mm-hmm. That was a real father figure. We actually only meet her dad in like the last freaking episode.
No, dude, don't you know who he is? That's fucking Guapo from Jefe from the Three Amigos.
Oh, and it is?
Yes, that great line. Guapo, could it be that once again you were mad at something else, but you were choosing to take it out on me?
I didn't know that was him. I haven't seen Three Amigos in a very long time. Oh, wow.
It's like,
that
wait
just
a second.
tells you the casting was pretty tight with this show. Like, that I couldn't even catch a reference like that, and I should have.
I'm a nerd. I'm a big nerd. And his eyes. Yeah. I was like, wait a second. I know those eyes and that face. Oh, that's Jefe.
Yeah, Jefe.
My godmother insisted that I watch that all the time as a kid. So.
Oh, okay. That explains that then. I was going to say either that or you whack on Steve Martin.
Well, a little of both.
A little of both. That's the way it goes. Now, did you like all the fight scenes? Because I was when he went in full Punisher mode, I'm like, this is the kind of Punisher I've always wanted. We never really got all full Punisher in any of the movies. Like some of the fight scenes would be pretty dope, pretty entertaining. However, this show just takes the cake as far as I'm concerned. His combat skills are really on point. He knows how to fucking kill things, gun, knife, whatever. He never resorted to bombs or being anything like too sly. He would always be up front. He never wanted to do anything that nobody knew was coming. And I totally respected that. And so I appreciated how they built his character and actually showcased him as the Punisher when it was time to do it.
The only time you saw him do anything huge, and I say huge with quotations, was at the very beginning, while he's finishing out his original mission, and he kills the guy in Mexico from the United States.
That was nuts, dude. From El Paso.
That was fucking rad. Like,
yeah,
he dials the wind.
Store.
That was the most amazing kill I've seen in a long time. And they tried doing it again where he shoots at Rollins from even a much shorter distance, but the glass was bulletproof. And you're like, see, you can't do the same trick twice. Shame on you. It's not that kind of show.
No. And I appreciated that a lot because it made you think like, oh, he's dead. Oh, he's not. And he's just standing there looking at the hole in the glass like, well, I'm glad I changed out the windows.
Yeah, right. Like not a whole lot of surprise. A little bit of surprise, but not fear on his face.
Any more powerful of a gun, he would have been toast though.
Like what? Why was he the only person that didn't have a 50 caliber Barrett on this goddamn movie or this show?
No,
like the only person that didn't have one.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess they couldn't steal one of those from the bad guys. The Greeks.
Well, you mentioned the sniper scene, and what that makes me remind me of is how he got out of the building with the senator and the attempted killing, and how they explain. You think he really walked into a building he didn't know how to escape from, and then you see him on this like CGI'd zip line coming towards the camera, and I'm like, okay, maybe that was a moment they could have just shown him just suddenly walking on another roof somewhere else. You didn't actually have to show him coming along the zip line because it looked kind of bad.
That was like 3 blocks away.
Yeah.
With one good arm. Ooh, bouncing.
He's hardcore, man.
But you know what? I will say this about that.
I did buy it. I just didn't like the overall CGI look of that one.
Sure. Like I've seen crazier shit, more realistic, but crazier shit in Batman. You know, the Fulton recovery system.
Oh yeah.
Real, but stupid. Anyway, I don't know. I digress on that. I just 0-pointed myself on that because I started thinking of Metal Gear.
Yeah, well, there's definitely some homages to like other properties in this series. Like the first one that comes to my mind, you say Metal Gear Solid, and clearly there is some influence there with that, not just from the comic books or previous iterations of the Punisher, but the opening part of this show, we see a red Dodge Challenger. That is a reference to The Walking Dead, season 1. Everybody knows what I'm talking about. Red Dodge Challenger and Glenn. So there's a little subtle reference to The Walking Dead with that.
From the first season?
First season of The Walking Dead?
I don't recall.
That's when Rick goes to Atlanta for the first time and he meets with Glenn. And after they need to get a red Dodge Challenger to distract the zombies.
When he's stuck in the tank?
I don't know. It's a different episode.
Oh.
You might have to go rewatch that. But there's a red Dodge Challenger that's a very pivotal moment in season 1.
I'll have to check it out.
And that's how they ultimately get out of there and then go to the camp that's just outside where Shane is banging Rick's wife.
And everybody else, the sick bastard. There's always got to be a sick bastard in a show like this. Well,
Totally does.
there's plenty of sick bastards in this show, but a show like that, that's, yeah. Anyway, we were complaining about shows like that beforehand. No, this is not one of those shows, so I don't want to complain about that. Nobody dies just for the sake of dying in this show. Like everyone's written to die, basically.
Except for Frank.
Yeah, that's not Frank or Micro.
Pretty much, yeah. Now, what did you think of Jon Bernthal as Punisher? That's $1 million question is, what did you think of this one with Jon?
Golly, I don't know where I would rate him on my list. Number 2 or number 3, as far as my favorite of 4 Punishers. He would be number 2 or 3, right behind Tom Jane. It's really hard to say between he and Ray Stevenson, because Ray Stevenson had the muscular build and the look.
Oh, he looked straight out of the comic book, Ray Stevenson.
Yeah, but again, just like Tom Jane, Bernthal really has that spirit of Frank Castle. He doesn't phone it in. He knows who the character is, and he portrays him exceedingly well.
All right.
So, golly, it's a close second.
Yeah, I would go number 2 for me. Tom is more my idea of the Punisher. That's the one that I feel like of all the actors, Jon is number 2, easy. If the second season was better overall, I think I would probably lean Jon for number 1, because he's a terrific actor and he did an excellent job as Frank. I totally buy into it. He totally fits. Killer job. Absolutely. I just feel with like Ray and Dolph, like we didn't quite get the appropriate portrayals out of either of those two. Ray looked the best. He handled all the action scenes very well. But when he was just kind of being Frank, I wasn't feeling that. And Dolph, he just looked the part. That's all he did.
Did he? Yeah, I guess there's nobody better at the time, but
well, until you get to Duck Lips mode.
Yeah, that's this whole thing I've been waiting to say for like the last 3 weeks since we started this shit. Only he had the duck lips shooting the machine gun. Nobody else fires those duck lips off.
It's a total 80s thing.
Oh, god damn, like you do that.
I know.
No one does that in real life, and I'm so happy we got that picture of him doing that.
No kidding. Yeah, but I really like Jon doing this role. He clearly did very good. I just wish I had more energy to go try and wait in line for him at the Mad Monster party he was at just a weekend or two ago up in Phoenix, and his line was just so long though, and I'm like, I don't want to stand here for an hour and a half just waiting to say hi for like literally like 90 seconds.
My feet hurt.
It's okay. If he comes back now, if he was there for both days, it would have been one thing. I was just going the one day, and I didn't really know he was going to be there actually. So
fair enough. No, I would like to see him continue this character as the MCU grows.
He is.
Is he? That is going to be a thing?
He's in the Daredevil show. That they have started production on that. He is in it. And they're bringing back some of the original Daredevil cast too.
I've heard that Deborah's in it.
Deborah and Foggy.
Yes. That makes me happy.
Now, they're not bringing the original writers back, so that's kind of where I still have hesitation about what they're doing. They're still using their typical Disney writers.
I don't want to see a continuation of that show, though. I liked the first 2 seasons so much that when they're like, you know what? We're going to take him back to street level. Like back the way he was in the first season. It's like, but we graduated past that. We don't need to go backwards again. And so then I'd already started hearing, before I'd even started to give it a shot, that people are saying, okay, this isn't as good. They like went 2 steps backwards after season 2. So I don't know. I don't know that I want to see anything continued by them. If their model design is to go backwards after going forwards, then no.
Right. And ultimately, I think that's what happened with the second season of this show, is they just went a little too far backwards with Frank as a character. But, you know, they easily could have had an idea like, hey, if we come back for another season, there's something more we could pipe into. But if we don't, at least we have a good solid season right here on its own that we're proud of, that can stand on its own. Absolutely, they delivered with a great first season here. And it totally stands on its own, and I think it turned out fantastically.
The only thing I would have liked to have seen a bit more of was the shooting sequences, a little bit more of the armor.
Yeah.
A lot more of the armor, actually. And then otherwise, this is, I think it got like an 8.5, 8.3 on IMDb. It's worth that. This was a lot of people really good.
Like this show. Yeah.
And what you were saying before about buying a unlicensed Blu-ray of it, I just saw something to that effect, wink, wink, on eBay, and it was both seasons.
Yeah, you end up getting both seasons. That's how they're doing it these days, and I don't give a shit. I'm doing it. Like, apparently nobody wants to make money. Netflix never wants to put their shit out on physical media anymore, so fuck them.
Kinda. You know what? My thing is,
I'll like, even go get Daredevil while I'm at it too. So
that's what I was just gonna say. I will get Daredevil because I enjoyed the hell out of the first 2 seasons of Daredevil. The first season of Daredevil, for him not being in costume, was insanely enjoyable. Like, you watch it with your jaw on the ground the entire time, like, oh, it's so good.
God, the action scenes are like, say what you will about the shows, the action scenes and the writing and most of these shows was awesome,
except for Iron Fist.
Yeah, Iron Fist and the Defenders show was a fucking bust in my opinion.
The Defenders was okay. It wasn't what it should have been, but it was
got
okay.
Sigourney just what had happened.
I want to be upset by that, but I'm not. I'm never unhappy to see her.
No, I just feel like they didn't know what to do with her character. I'm not blaming that on Sigourney like at all. I feel like they had an idea for her character and then they kind of backpedaled on it.
Well, yeah, man, Madame Gao should have been the fucking focus of that shit.
I know, right? That's what I was saying.
She was the coolest. Anyway.
Yep, but Iron Fist was not.
No, and you know what? I would like to see, since they're going to be doing bringing Punisher back and Daredevil Born Again, I would love to see him fight the Kingpin finally. I would love to see him go up against D'Onofrio.
Well, he did go up against D'Onofrio in season 2 of Daredevil.
Did he fight him?
Yeah. He was in the prison with them. I don't think there was much of a fight. I think it was more of a dick measuring contest between the two on, I could use your help, Mr. Castle. And Frank's just like, fuck off.
So
they did share a scene together. God, now I need to go back and watch Daredevil. Now I want to go back and rewatch most of these shows. And yes, I did like Jessica Jones. Well, eventually I'll watch them. I just want to get them so they're in my collection, so I don't have to go digging around for like, how the hell am I going to watch this show that we just decided to change up at the last minute?
No, I think you're right. And again, they were good shows. And I hope they find a way to keep the Defender series somewhat canon to MCU.
That'd be interesting.
I don't know how canon, but let's hope that they do. I hope that they do, because again, I enjoyed it with the exception of Iron Fist.
Now, where would you rank this show amongst all the other Netflix shows?
This is number 2 for me.
Okay.
Golly, that's hard because, gosh, Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are both really good, but I'd say probably Daredevil, Punisher, Jessica Jones, and Luke Cage. as far as my
I
quality.
would go that same ranking too.
And then
I love the first 2 seasons of Daredevil so well, and then this it flows so nicely into Punisher season 1 that it's like that's my 3-season sweetness factor right there.
kind of yes, because the other shows didn't have great season 2s.
No, they did not.
None of them did really. Like all of them had like severe drops in quality.
I mean, I liked them, but I'm very easy to admit they weren't great.
The only second season that I really liked was Daredevil.
Yeah.
Everything else was kind of lackluster after their first seasons because the first seasons were so good.
That's the problem when you have a fantastic fucking first season. It's like, you got to deliver, so you deliver, and then with season 2, there's always the chance that you're losing some staff because they're going off to another show, or they're getting the opportunity to run their own show or get more involved in something else. Like, you never really know that you're going to end up losing like some of your staff or behind the scenes crew. So things tend to get changed up a bit.
True. But this one,
Man, what a show, though. This is such a goddamn ride.
it was intense. Did you have a chaser after binging it? No, you just sat there and like watched all this violent shit and just went, all right, let's go to dinner.
Yeah, I'm good. Well, it was very satisfying. It was a very good emotional ride. And the moment that got me choked up the most was basically when David reunited with Leo, his daughter.
Yeah.
It's like you've been watching this the whole season and you've been seeing like tormented by they can't know I'm alive, or they're all probably dead themselves, or worse, getting captured, kidnapped. Well, now part of his family's been kidnapped and captured, and Frank has to go deal with that. And the only person who can go grab Leo is David. And when they hug, it's like, I'm not crying, you're crying. It was a good emotional moment. It really brought the levity to the show that was really needed to see some family coming back together because of what Frank's doing. And you could argue that he had a role in how they got split apart, but he definitely was doing his best to take care of his business. And ultimately he ended up finding a friendship with Micro, and he ended up saving that family to where David could be with his family yet again. So
yeah,
that was just chef's kiss on the detail work and the writing and the planning out of these episodes, because this could not have been easy. Like, I'm sure like they really hemmed and hawed over these scripts for quite a while, unless they somehow are just geniuses straight up. But I really liked that moment. And then like the very, when Karen hugged Frank before we never saw Karen again, was damn. All right. I guess that's enough with Karen for now.
Yeah. I want more. I need them to have if they have some level of closure, it's going to be fucking horrific. Like she's going to die, and I just don't need that neither.
Right.
Yeah,
I don't want that either. Please don't do that. You're already retelling the same story from Daredevil for a second time. So.
Oh yeah, with her PTSD.
Well, that's what they're retelling the Born Again story yet again. So we already saw that in the Netflix show.
Oh yeah. Well,
that's my concern about that. So it's like, you can't come up with a different story to adapt. Oh well.
Guardian Devil.
It's good. Oh god.
Well, she dies in that.
Marco. Oh, it was also funny seeing Turk again too from Daredevil and the other shows.
Yes.
You don't look like a Turk. It's just a name, brother.
It's just Come on, I don't know you. I got a family. People saying that, trying to like plead to Frank. It's like, oh, shh, don't.
Yeah, as the audience were just like, no, bad move. Just stop talking. And Frank's just backhands and pistol whips him in the back of the head. And he's just like, Jesus Christ. It's like, do these guys never shut up?
Turk gets his ass whooped by everybody in the comics at some point.
Everybody. I'm just trying to make a living, brother.
Donald Glover plays him in the Spider-Man movies, and like he gets webbed to shit all the time, stuck to things.
And never lets up.
Yeah, I love the wisdom that he gives Spider-Man. Like, you're not very good at this, are you? What do you mean?
Yeah. Oh. Now, what did you think of Curtis as a character, by the way? I really enjoyed Curtis and the actor who played him too.
Well, Curtis was a bit of a clone of Sam in a way for me. Not Sam Stein, but Falcon.
Right.
So I mean, that was okay-ish, but he was written really well. He wasn't written disrespectfully or stereotypically as a veteran or a counselor.
Right.
He was written very smart. And so you really couldn't complain about that. It just sucks that he got done the way he did by Lewis. Like, and he even says, little bastard kicked my leg out from under me. And you're like, oh, but do you blame him? Can you blame Lewis for fighting that way? That's how you win.
Yeah. When you're in war, like, you got to do what you got to do in a fight. Well, what's funny is when Billy's like, I just would have straight shot the fucker. It's like, well, that's not Curtis, but yeah, you kind of have a point.
He was right. Although fucking Billy was going to put him back out in the field somewhere anyway, but you know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, you like hiring those mercs, so.
Yeah, right. But Curtis was a good character. There was enough of him. There wasn't too much, I don't think. And there wasn't a shortage of him. But he was a good voice of reason that they brought in here and there that spread out nicely. He was a way to bring
gaps in between plots. Yeah.
Yeah, like he was a way of bringing awareness to the actual issues that veterans have to face every day without making the show. Yeah, without making the show like preachy. It was very real, but not in your face.
It kind of borderlined on getting a little preachy at times, but it always never went too far. It pulled back at just the right times. It's like the show knew we're bringing up topics. We're going to say something, but then we're going to pull right back from it so we can focus on the story instead of on the message.
Lewis's antics about the Second Amendment and O'Connor's bullshit with his stolen valor, that's where it got really preachy for me. It's like, man, fuck those kind of guys, crazy bastards. Because people like O'Connor have loud voices that just really shouldn't. And we see in this show why, like, he becomes Lewis's victim and vice versa. Is that the best way to put that?
A little bit.
He plays Lewis and then Lewis plays the fuck out of him.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, did you have any other issues with the show at all? Like any drawbacks or things you didn't really dig?
No, man, no. Just other than the fact that, like I said, I wish he would have been in the armor a little bit more often, done a little bit more ass kicking. But
yeah,
otherwise, this is a fun ride to watch. And you can't watch it all the time because it is pretty intense.
Yes.
But it's not like something like Speed, where if you watch it once and you know all the surprises, you can't watch it again because it's not as fun. This will still be fun in the future. This is my second watch, and I wasn't bored. There were just things I'm kind of like, you know what, you could probably shave an hour off of that by not seeing his wife going, good morning, good morning, good morning 25 minutes of good morning. Yeah, it was like, shit, we get it. Fast forward.
Well, yeah. Well, and then the guy coming in and capping her, it's like, yeah, we've already seen this like 5 times. Especially if you're trying to do a binge of this show. Now, if you're watching it, now if it was a weekly release, I don't think people would really have had a problem, even back then, to your point. But when you're trying to binge and you keep seeing the same stuff over and over again, it's like, okay, I get it. But ease up, people.
Kind of, yes. And I think that was probably exactly what the issue was.
Yeah.
Was that, like, yeah, within the day, I'd seen her show up so many times to wake him up within that 1 episode, the 2 episode, 4 episodes later. You're like, okay.
Yeah.
Shoot more people.
Torture more people. He didn't do too much interrogating in this show. But when he did, it was effective and quick.
Yeah. Punching that fucking guy's eye out, though, was pretty amazing.
Oh my God. You got let off easy with that. Even Billy's like, you know, I should have just let him kill you.
Punched him so hard in the fucking head it blinded him. Oh.
Brutal. And then he really takes out his eyes later. Takes out
that
Rollins.
I didn't remember that part until it was
I
happening.
didn't either.
I was like, oh no.
So I'm punching him and I'm like, I think he sniffs his. Oh, there go the eyes. Oh my God.
And to your point, that beautiful Foley effects that they deserved a fucking Emmy or Golden Globe for this shit. Like
sound design, Foley effects, like the production on this show was tight. It was really good.
Yeah, like stab your fingers through grapefruit, like frozen grapefruit or something. Just make it gross.
Make it really squish and pop.
Yeah. And slow. We want it to squish and slide around.
Yeah. Oh God, so good. I really enjoyed this show this time around.
Yeah, this was, like we talked about last night, this is what the Marvel Knights would have been had Marvel Knights actually gotten to be a thing on the big screen.
That would have been pretty rad.
It would have been a gritty thing like this.
Okay, so I haven't seen or read any like Marvel Knights. Is that a group or what exactly is that? I know, noob question. Forgive me, everybody. I don't read fucking Marvel comics except Punisher
Marvel
comics.
Knights,
but I don't remember Marvel Knights, so I don't think I actually read like any of that.
It was a period of time where they were getting outside of Extreme, but they dropped the comic code. And so for their street level heroes like Daredevil or Punisher, or Luke Cage, Spider-Man, they went by Marvel Knights. And I think even Black Panther might have at one point.
Well, maybe I did read some of these then.
Yeah.
I don't remember the Marvel Knight like banner words.
And then I want to say they had Marvel Max at one point.
Oh, I remember Max a little bit. Okay.
Yeah, they just kept trying to come up with different brandings to make themselves not extreme, but just something different. Something unique there. And that was this.
All right.
Yeah.
I think I had one other question. I'm trying to remember what it was. Oh, my question to you would be, were you satisfied by Micro's story in this? Because we saw how he was as Newman in Warzone. We've never really had Micro before adapted. I felt like the story was told exceedingly well. Again, yes, we're going to keep harping about the writing because that's one of the strongest facets about this show outside of tremendous acting performances. Everybody acted world class. Somebody should have gotten a fucking Emmy. But as far as like Micro's story, I felt like that was basically the second main story this season, and it turned out wonderfully, where he actually got to reunite with his family, and I was very satisfied by that. But Kevin, what did you think about like that?
I enjoyed that more than Frank's story. To be perfectly honest, that was more of the focal point.
Yeah.
And just to make it plain, that's not Micro from the comics.
Well, yeah, it's not.
This character is better than Micro from the comics.
I would agree.
Micro in the comics is just a guy in a chair. That's all he really was. This guy has so much more depth to him. and you root for him, you feel for him. When he nuts early for his wife, you're like, oh man, it's okay. It's okay. You've been gone for a year.
that was so funny. I forgot about that too. When she's like, can I talk to you for a moment alone? And they end up, once they get into the other room, I'm like, oh, that's right. They have sex. They go into the bathroom. They fumble around. He gets in and like, 3 pump Trump, dude. It's like, oh, dude, it really has been a long time, hasn't it? She's just got this look of, it happens to all the guys, honey.
And he's been gone for a year, and it's like he tells Frank, "I really miss sex," and I love that Frank's got that look on his face, like, okay, like where is this going?
Yeah, I love the look on his face. It's just like, okay, like. Who doesn't? But Frank was never driven by that, so
no. But it was
why he told like Sarah to piss off. Basically, he's like, "Nope, I'm not into you like that, lady."
Yeah. Okay. So that will be my final thing that happened one too many times was the jealousy thing from David's end. Like, okay, we went through this twice. The third time is silly. Get past it. And they did get past it and not come back to it. But that third time just didn't need to be.
Yeah. Is that where Frank basically said, I don't want your wife. Get over it. End of story. That's the end of this conversation.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Because that was well done. It's like, okay, thank you for putting a kibosh on that. And then it never got brought up again.
Yeah, like I don't even think he tried to joke about it after that. Like it was just done.
Yeah. And maybe he was echoing what they wanted out of the script. And in that particular instance, like they knew full well, like we might be doing this a few too many times. And somebody said, well, why don't we just have Frank say, that's enough of this bullshit. It's over. I don't want her. And maybe that's how they put that into the script then. Like somebody might have noticed that and been like, hey, let's make this a moment here.
Kind of, yes. But golly, just his madness and getting drunk and like worrying. It's like, we get it. You're a pussy and you can't do anything. You're self-medicating. We get it. Move along.
Well, yeah, and even he's like, he gets drunk. We're having a good time. He goes to take a leak, and then he starts screaming, we need to go to Madani right now. It's like, oh, dude, shut up. And then he just straight pisses off Frank. And then Frank just knocks him the fuck out. And then when he wakes up, he's like, I'm sorry about everything I said last night except Madani. We should go to Madani.
They really were a fun married couple. They really were.
Yeah, they worked very well together. I really liked that initial setup where, you know, Micro knew where he was in the diner and he totally caught Frank off guard. Like, he's on another roof. No, he's actually on top of the roof of the diner. Hi.
That was funny as hell.
Yep.
And then getting back at him being stuck in a chair naked for God knows how long. That was,
oh my God. Like he totally played Frank a little bit. It's like, no, there's a nice intelligence to him that you weren't quite, you knew he was smart. You didn't know how smart. Then you just got him with the pen. It's like, nice. Then Frank's waking up and he's like, you didn't kill me. And he got his loaded gun on his chest. He's like, hey, I made coffee.
Want some? He really was a fun character. And again, probably my favorite from the show.
Yeah. I Micro and Frank were my favorites. Billy was really good. Madani was really good. There wasn't really a character I hated that they didn't intend you to hate.
I don't know that I hated anybody. I mean, the O'Connor character, but that's just because I hate Stolen Valor.
Yeah. Yeah, the Lewis character is a bit. I'd say because it actually serves a story purpose. So it was. I don't blame like the actor on that. It's just that particular arc just felt like that was about like 2 episodes too long.
Yeah, maybe. maybe because like you said, it was
This
out
is
of the
just
4
nitpicking,
movies.
guys. I really like the show. I really don't have a complaint about it. But if you're going to tighten that up, that would have been the one of the story arcs you could have tightened up.
Yeah. Or sped it up a little. Anyway, that's just repetitive.
Yeah. No. Well, you got any other fun thoughts about season 1, Kevin, or do you want to say goodnight to everybody?
Oh, let's say goodnight, man, because this was a fun show. This was a lot of explosions. This was a lot of punching and action.
A lot of punishing.
Yeah, but golly, does it leave you ready for a nap afterwards? Because it's adrenaline the entire time.
Yeah, I probably will watch something else tonight before I go to bed. It might be something like Married with Children.
I'm not gonna lie, I threw on Goof Troop, and I'm like, okay, I don't remember the pilot to Goof Troop at all, but we're gonna sit here and watch it. My kids are like,
interesting.
What the hell is this? And I'm sitting there laughing like I'm their age again.
Yeah.
Just watched like 80 some people get killed today, but otherwise I'm gonna watch Goof Troop.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. Quick episodes. Well, you mentioned Darkwing Duck before we started this, and I'm like, you know what? I might want to track down an episode or two of that.
There's no wrong reason to watch Darkwing Duck.
Nope, and there's also no wrong reason to check out The Punisher Season 1. It is available for viewing on, say, like Amazon Prime, Disney Plus for free if you got Disney Plus. It's on most of the streamers. It's not on Netflix. You can't go flying back. It's just we call this the Netflix era because they're the ones who basically aired this damn show. But you know, you can go track it down. It's fun. Or you could go do what I'm doing after this episode concludes here and going to get an unofficial copy, which are easily available on Amazon, on eBay, on Etsy, just about anywhere you tend to go. You can probably find an unofficial release somewhere. But want to say thank you, everybody, for tuning in to The Punisher Season 1 starring Jon Bernthal. If you like this video, please hit that like button. Got any comments about this show? Anything we didn't cover that we might have forgotten that we wanted to cover? I don't know. But you got any thoughts, any fun memories, anything about Jon Bernthal or this show? Please put the comments down below. Also, hit that little subscribe button, hit that little bell notification so you can stay tuned to all of our videos. And in 2 weeks, everybody, Punisher Season 2, and who knows? Maybe I'll change my mind on a second rewatch and maybe I'll like it a little bit more. Still like it, but we'll see what we got to say about that. So thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We will see you on the next one so you can still get punished just one more time. Make sure you check us out on all of our social media platforms. We got Facebook, Twitter. We are at Suns and Shadows. We're also on Instagram at Suns and Shadows Cast. We are at sunsandshadows.com. Thank you again, everybody, and we'll see you down the road.